Grailing for Love, the series where we talk about a servant's performance at their maximum potential. In this episode, we'll be covering a personal favorite of mine, Ushiwakamaru, the 3-star writer. For this series of reviews, we'll be making a few assumptions. Namely, we'll be assuming that the servant in question is fully grailed as well as 2k foes. Firstly, let's go over the investment and the return you'll be getting out of maxing Ushi. Being an early game writer, Ushi doesn't need any particularly rare materials to get leveled. She requires proofs, horseshoes, lanterns, and octuplet crystals for ascension, alongside rider statues as usual. Her skills require rider gems in addition to horseshoes, proofs, gears, and octuplet crystals. Being a 3-star, she requires 9 grails and 45 million QP to reach level 100. Now for what you get out of raising her. Ushi currently has 3 strengthening quests, 2 of which are currently available on NA. She also has an interlude, though it only serves to strengthen her NP. If we add this to the 3-star line of bond rewards, that means you'll receive a total of 10 Saint Quartz for fully raising her. In terms of stats, at level 100, she has 12,240 HP and 9,576 attack without foes. Her first skill unbuffed is Tengu Art of War, rank A, which is a vanilla NP generation buff that scales from 10% to 20%. After her second strengthening, the skill becomes Tengu Art of War EX, which adds a quick buff that scales at the same value. Her second skill is Charisma rank C+, that scales from 8.5% to 17%. After her third strengthening, this skill becomes 6 Secret Arts of War, Thunder and Gale. The attack percentage now scales from 10% to 20%, and the skill now gives a crit damage buff from 30 to 50%, and 10 to 20 crit stars. Her final skill that unlocks after her first strengthening is Art of the Swallow, which is a 1-turn evade and crit star generation buff that scales from 50% to 100%. Her noble phantasm is Dan no Ura, Hasotobi. It's a single hit quick NP, but does a load of damage and increases her own crit star generation for 3 turns on overcharge. She has 2 passives, Magic Resistance C, which is an inherent 15% debuff resistance, and Riding A, which is an inherent 11% quick buff. In terms of gameplay and how she performs, Ushi excels as a boss killer, and more often than not, a single NP will be enough to take care of a single enemy or a break bar. The problem is getting that NP. Despite her kit being pretty great on paper, Ushi suffers from early game design and her terrible hit counts. Both her quick and arts cards have 2 hits, which isn't great for neither star generation or NP gain. There are a couple ways to get around this. Her overcharge effect and third skill improve her star generation, so if you're using a Brave Chain, you won't be completely out of damage for the next turn. Her upgraded second skill gives her enough stars to almost guarantee a crit that turn, and if you're lucky enough to pull an arts card, you're going to get a good amount of MP gauge back. Looking purely at her kit, you may see her as a supportive attacker, one who can grant the party extra damage, MP generation, and stars, but I see her a bit differently. I describe her as more of a rocket launcher. Once you fire, you do a shit ton of damage, but it's gonna take some time to reload for your next shot. This can be aided by supports though. The most obvious pick is Scotty. Ushi is a quick attacker. Scotty gives quick attackers nuclear amounts of damage. And 2 Scotties give you an instant NP, letting you use something other than a charge CE. If you don't have Scotty, Waver and Hans are your next best options. Waver gives attack and extra crit damage as well as some bonus defenses. Hans is probably the best budget pick as he gives crit damage, attack, defense, healing, NP charge, and stars. Merlin also works, but Ushi only has 1 Buster card, and his crit steroid only lasts for 1 turn. Wuzachan and Atalanta can work as awkward supports if you're just looking to burst down an enemy in a turn. Atalanta's Beyond Arcadia is a party-wide 50% quick buff, and her NP makes loads of stars, while Wuzachan has a 2-piece attack and quick buff as well as a defense down. Chiron is another interesting option, with his rainbow and crit buffs as well as his star dump. Now let's talk craft essences. My main recommendation is anything that gives charge. If you play the CCC event, you should have a limit broken copy of 1 Summer lying around. It's not ideal as it's a full HP CE, but it should get the job done. Golden Sumo is also an option for those of you who have it. Obviously, Kaleidoscope is a great pick as well, and for those of you with terrible luck, a limit-broken imaginary element will suffice for most setups. One of the best picks, Traces of Christmas, is coming in this year's Christmas event. The best part? It's a lottery CE, so you're most likely going to have a lot of copies. It's a 50% charge CE that gives 10% quick and NP gen, and it's full attack. It's one of the best options for most quick attackers. We don't have that many great command codes on NA, but when picking for Ushi, look for ones that can assist in her star generation. Crest of Humanity improves crit star drop rate, and Holy Knight's Aurora generates 4 stars. Both should help with her terrible quick cards. An interesting option is to use the Da Vinci command code on her Buster card. The CC gives a 15% NP strength buff for 1 turn when used. Slot the Buster card before your NP, and you have a massive damage turn on your hands. To wrap up my thoughts, Ushi is one of the best 3 stars in the game, and will most likely blow up whatever it is you're throwing her at. She may have a bit of trouble getting consecutive NPs, but does it really matter when the enemy is dead in the first place? Some of you at this point may be asking, is she worth the Grail? And to that I say, that's not the point. You should grail the servants that you love the most, whether it be because you like how the servant plays, or you like their personality, or perhaps you're a fan of the artist who drew them. Ushiwakamaru is my favorite FGO servant, and the first one I ever grailed. She got me through many a tough situation on NA, and has continued to do that on my fairly recent JP account. If you had to ask me, I said go for it, but you shouldn't let my opinion affect what you do with your account. This series is purely to show you how a servant performs at their greatest. Thank you all for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please like the video and subscribe for more. Maybe comment what servant you want me to cover next, though the servants I have grailed may take priority. I also do a series called FGO Recap where I talk about the events that happened on NA every month, as well as some servants that will have future raid-ups. So look at that if you're curious.